Right. Yes, I've actually called my presentation "The Trials and Tribulations of Setting Up a Research Tissue Bank." And I hope very much by the end of my talk you'll be aware of some of the sort of highs and lows that we've experienced over the 18 months that we've been in operation. But first of all, can I just say thank you as well to the researchers for giving me the opportunity to talk today. Sorry, the organisers for giving me the opportunity to talk today. And like everyone here, I do hope that by the end of the day, perhaps we can see a clearer route for gaining good quality human tissue for use by researchers, both within the academic and the commercial environment. Those are the areas that I'll be covering during my talk. I think they're fairly self-explanatory. I suppose the last two slides will probably be the ones that we might want to focus in on. Those are the barriers and the breakthroughs that we've actually experienced during our 18 months of setting up the tissue bank. So in terms of my background, just very, very briefly, I think one of my colleagues looked at this and said, "Goodness, you've been around a bit." And looking at that, I thought, perhaps that's the case. I've actually worked in NHS pathology laboratories in the past. I did start a tumour tissue bank in the Institute of Cancer Therapeutics in 2000, and I was also a QA manager within 2 clinical trial laboratories within the Institute of Cancer Therapeutics. I think what was very useful for me in setting up the tumour tissue bank, setting up our licensed, ethically approved research tissue bank, which is known as Ethical Tissue, was that I'd actually been heavily involved in getting the university's Human Tissue Authority licence, and obviously I'd put in the application for ethical status for the tissue bank as well in 2007. In terms of the background of Ethical Tissue, really it's built on the tumour tissue bank that was set up in 2000 in the Institute of Cancer Therapeutics and ran from 2000 until 2006. And once we'd got over the hurdle basically of getting our licence and ethical approval status in place, the next real hurdle before we could actually go live as a bank was to get our business plan approved by the university. And once that was in place, we were able to launch ourselves then in May 2008. Although we are part of the University of Bradford, we do operate as a ring-fenced activity, both in terms of our activities ourselves and our accounting. And because we have no external funding, we do operate as a not-for-profit organisation. So, I should say a cost recovery not-for-profit organisation. And so if researchers approach us for tissue, we do incur a charge for our services. And that cost is based on those overheads and administration, all those items that we've listed there. Because we work under a licence as well, we have to have quality systems in place to make sure that we're working to a certain standard. And that involves us in having a wide range of SOPs, training records and equipment logs, which in some ways again puts another administration burden on the bank, but we appreciate the value of working to this quality standard. We're debating whether we're going to go for an ISO or a good laboratory practice accreditation at the moment, whether we want that as well as having our licence in place. We're still talking about that. Another benefit for the research community really is that they know that we can have access to quite a wide range of different types of tissue from the collaborations that we have in place already with the NHS. We're still talking with a transplant coordinator network. We're hoping to be able to source tissue from them that was, as we've spoken about earlier, made available for, was sourced originally for transplant use, and for various reasons it's become unsuitable for transplant use and then becomes available for research, providing obviously that the consent is in place. And we can, as well, to back up all the tissue that we give, we are able to give an anonymised data collection, a minimum data set with the tissue, which obviously then is amazingly valuable to the researcher. They want to know more and more details about the tissue samples. And of course we can as well release data sets that will support epidemiological work. Another benefit really for ethical tissue is that we're actually housed in the Institute of Cancer Therapeutics, and we have a wealth of expertise from senior academics around us, and as well as that we've got very specialist equipment there, so we can have their expertise and this equipment, which perhaps becomes particularly relevant if we're carrying out if a research group wanted to carry out proteomic work, biomarker work, tissue microarrays, for instance, or if we wanted to isolate certain types of cells, we can call on the expertise around us. So we feel really that we have tried to make it as streamlined as possible for the researcher or research groups, but equally keeping our standards high, and we do that really by having material transfer agreements in place so that the researcher says they will do this, this and this with it, and provided that falls underneath our ethics approval umbrella, we can release the tissue to them. We have recently been inspected by the HTA as well, and it was very reassuring when we were told that we had very robust systems in place. In fact, it was just music to our ears to hear them talk about ethical tissue in that way. So, coming to the last two slides, really, I've spoken about all that we've done as if there's been no delays or whatever, and it's gone very smoothly, and that really isn't the case. Throughout the whole of the setup phase during this 18 months, well, we sat down and we sort of wrote down the things that we felt had actually slowed us down. We felt we'd streamlined everything to make it as easy as possible for the research groups to access the tissue, but it was more us being able to source the tissue from various NHS trusts and clinics and perhaps the transplant corridor network. And I think perhaps these are areas that perhaps that need to be addressed in order. They probably have knock-on effects for a lot of people in the room that are sourcing tissue for their research work. And if we could, in any way, improve, make a clearer pathwork so that perhaps surgeons or pathologists perhaps feel more secure to release tissue. It doesn't involve, as it has done in some cases for us, it could be several meetings over a 6-month period. And sometimes it's gone on to a year before we've had approval to actually have tissue for research use. But it isn't all doom and gloom. I'd better tell you about the successes. And as I say, I've already mentioned our Human Tissue Authority audit, where we did really have an absolutely glowing report from them. We've been audited by the NHS, which was very good as well. And we are now interacting with 5 NHS trusts. So we hope that we can bring more tissue in to make it available for the research environment, the various research groups. At the moment, we've got about 30 groups, research groups, that we're supplying tissue to, that range from both academic and global pharma. And we currently can source approximately 20 different tissue types. But we're always wanting to expand and meet the needs of the research community. Thank you.